Hello, welcome. We are talking politics and religion without killing each other. I'm your host, Corey Nathan, and it is an honor to be a part of the Democracy Group. That's a network of podcasts that examines what's broken in our democracy and how we can work together to fix it. So grateful to our sponsors, the Village Square and Pew Research. You can find information about them in our show notes. Remember to subscribe to our Substack too. We're having such great in-depth conversations over there. Just find it at CoreySNathan at substack.com. That's CoreyS as a Sam, Nathan .substack.com. Or just go to Substack and look me up, Corey S. Nathan. I'd really love to hear from you. I love these conversations. Now, let's get right to it. I am so happy to be joined today by Nikki Harris. Some folks know her as Nikki Stokes, but I just learned she is Nikki Harris now. Mazel tov, as we say in the old country. Nikki Harris helps local government, public schools, and community agencies walk their talk of serving everyone. She has supported Baltimore City's Department of Planning, Police Department, and Mayor's Commission on Disabilities. Her journey started when she needed to advocate for her son, Roman, who is on the autism spectrum. Nikki's here as part of our ongoing series that highlights Weavers. Weave, the Social Fabric Project tackles a problem of broken social trust that has left Americans divided, lonely, and in social gridlock. Nikki, I am so happy to be joined by you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm so glad you took care of that intro because it's so much stuff.
So much. Yeah.
I can't remember all the stuff.
Well, one of the first things I wanted to ask you about, and forgive me for sounding completely ignorant, but can you tell me what a fiber artist is?
So I pretty much make stuff out of fiber.
Yeah.
It's way simple. And there'll probably be some classically trained artists that'll reach and be like, I kind of learned it by accident. I started knitting and crocheting just to help myself with my own self-regulation and therapy. And then once I figured out I could help my son with his self-regulation, it just took off from there. So I've always been like the artsy, fartsy kind of girl. Just love making things with my hands, building things. But once I found a real purpose and a way that I could repurpose art, it just took on a mind of its own.
Oh, so that's interesting. So it sounds like you discovered it as an adult. You were already a mom when you discovered this particular medium. That's interesting. Were you like a painter or something as a kid and just or a sculptor or anything? Or
I think I've always just been an artist, but never really looked at it as like a practical means of making a living.
Yeah.
So I'm in the kitchen. I can bake, I can cook. And once I saw stuff, I could always figure out how to make it myself. And so that's kind of where it took off.
Right. Now, some of the pieces I was looking at, I mean, they can like, I'm not trying to blow smoke, but like they can hang in like exhibits.
Yeah.
How did you learn that art form? Like some of them are not only like representative of different figures that inspired you, but like just like the whole presentation of it, like evokes a reaction from me as just the person who's kind of taking it in. How did you learn that? How did you learn how to put that together in order to kind of bring in a viewer to evoke an emotion or an experience with a piece that you create?
I think because I create from a space of emotion, it naturally does that. And, my son and I, even during COVID, when we were stuck in the house, we kind of turned to art. And so my son's nonverbal. And so when he was having issues with like sensory processing, I would let him paint and then I would crochet. And so then it went from small things like blankets and hats and scarves to these bigger projects. And it was, how can I create a world where he can experience art how he experiences life? So he needs to touch and feel. He needs everything to be tactile. And art etiquette doesn't always represent or have space for that. And so it was, how can I create this version of art for us and what it looks like? It was never intended to be like a career or me selling anything. It was me creating something for him in that moment.
That's interesting because it is a particularly tactile art form. So I would
Mhm.
imagine for your, and we'll talk about Roman a bit, but I would imagine that that's a part of it for you too. Like it's almost like it allows you to be meditative in a way with your art form. Is that right?
Yes. So there are actually studies that show that the repetitive motion of knitting and crocheting is relaxing. It makes you feel better. And it 100% does because I've done it at work, like when I work for the fire department, things like that. But like colors make you feel a certain feeling. Like there are colors that make you feel happy. There are colors that can kind of calm you. And I've just figured out organically how to weave all of that into the work that I make.
Yeah.
So even like hats and scarves, like for me, if it doesn't feel good, like who wants to wear an itchy sweater or an itchy hat or something that doesn't feel good? So as much as the visual is important, the actual feeling for me was always very, very purposeful and intentional in everything that I made.
And then in terms of your process, do you have a vision before you start out on a project, or you just start knitting and see or crocheting and see where it goes, and like the project kind of emerges from what you're like? What is your process?
So for the portraits, they're very strategic and mapped out and
Okay.
planned out. So it'll start from a favorite picture of a musical artist that I have, and I'll go from there. But a lot of times when I'm making sweaters or scarves, it literally is we just start and see where it goes. And I think that's the beauty of it for me is there were times where I won't buy yarn. I'm like, this whole collection is gonna be made from remnants and scraps to see what I can come up with.
Right.
And surprisingly, like those were the everybody's favorite. And I'm like, yeah, I can't redo that because they don't make that yarn anymore. Or this combination, like once it's gone, I'm never gonna see it again. So it definitely fits like my whimsy way of kind of moving through life. So yeah.
Whimsy, I love it. So you
Mhm.
tell your neighbor, "Hey, I'm making you a napkin." "No, wait, I'm making you a scarf." "No, wait, I'm making you a sweater." "Okay, it'll be a blanket." Something like that. That's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
do you have I know it's kinda like I have 3 kids and sometimes somebody, "Do you have a favorite kid?" So I'm gonna ask you a question like that. Do you have a favorite piece that you've made or some that stick out for you?
I think my favorite piece is the portrait that I did of Roman for
Mm,
the art exhibit last year.
okay.
It was a picture that I took of him, I want to say maybe 10 years ago, and he was having a rough day at school. And so when he would have those rough days, I would just go pick him up from school, and we went to Chick-fil-A,
Mm,
and he was at Chick-fil-A, and he was mid fry, like he was in the middle of biting this fry, and it was just this look of peace and serene on his
ah,
face. And I took the picture, and I was like, I don't know what this picture is going to be for, but I'm just going to hold on to it.
yeah.
And so that was the portrait that we had in the window display for our art exhibit last
Oh, that's
year. So
awesome.
that would be my favorite one.
So Roman's 20 now, right? Yeah, and does he see that piece of artwork? Has he had a interaction with that at all?
Yes. So last year we did a tactile sensory exhibit called Roman's Room.
Uh-huh.
And we did that in partnership with Make Studio, which is a studio in Hamden in Baltimore that supports artists with disabilities. And so literally we took all the artwork that he had done during COVID. I had made tactile pieces and portraits, and we put them on display. And the entire exhibit you could go
Mm,
through and touch. It was sensory friendly. We had sensory kits, just so people could experience art in whatever way that they show up in the world. And so the best part was watching him go through and see the pictures of himself, and um, it was the best moment. Like if nobody else saw it, just him being able to see his work up on the wall and the work that we did together was fantastic.
isn't that amazing that, as artists or creatives, sometimes we envision, like, I don't know, you dream about getting an award and this big, but sometimes the most touching moments are in a very private sphere, like, in theater. I was involved in theater for many years, and I got to tell you, some of my favorite moments, if not all of my favorite moments, were in the development or the rehearsal process. You know,
Mhm.
and the work, the collaboration with the others that are involved in breathing life into, in that case, words on a page. You know, um, now you're I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the right word is restless, but I would say definitely productive because there's a lot of stuff that you've done, among a lot of others that we'll talk about. One is starting a business from this, HGE Designs. That's your business, right?
Yes. Yep.
How how did you how did it so I got a lot of questions about that, but, like, how did you learn how to there's a lot of things that you did that were entrepreneurial, right? In terms of, like, the stuff that you do in the community that we'll discuss, but, like, how did you learn how to start a business? Like, how did you write a business plan? Did you look it up on, at the live like, how did it occur to you to start a business, and how did you start a business?
I never planned on becoming a business owner, like, at all. Um, no Nothing in me was just like, "Yeah, we're gonna open a business and sell stuff."
Yeah,
Literally going through the process of my son being diagnosed and trying to navigate, like, healthcare and all of these things, and there was so much that whether it was therapy or resources, we didn't have enough resources to pay for these things out of pocket, but we made too much money for any assistance. And so one day my dad looked at me and was like, you know, somebody will buy that scarf that you're wearing. And I was like, nobody would ever buy this. And I was in the mall and this lady walked up to me and was just like, where'd you get your scarf? I would love to buy one. And I was like, wow, this will help me pay for all of Roman's therapy. And that was 100% why I did it. Um,
man.
because it's going to take care of this little guy that has all of these different requirements and needs, and he's got to be okay.
Yeah.
And that was 100% the reason I did it.
You know, I have
So I didn't even have a business plan. Literally, it was I was making stuff and selling it. Um, that 100% was it. So even when I started going through different cohorts like SIL with Johns Hopkins and I really realized, like, I did everything backwards. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have investors. I just had an idea, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, how can we make this work?"
That is awesome. There's so much I wanna ask you about, like, from your time as a first responder to how it translates to what you do now. But it I have to I mean, we need to talk about your experience as a mom. So it's Nicholas and Roman, right? And Nicholas is 25 now?
Yes.
How's so we're gonna talk
Every
a lot
time you
about
say these ages, I cringe,
it's
like,
crazy, right? My oldest is 24, and they're almost gonna be 25 in February in March. My baby is gonna be 21 in February, 219. Anyway, so that is crazy. Like, um, I'm not old enough to have like, I never pictured having kids this old. Um,
nah, not at all.
First of all, everybody asks you, you talk a lot about Roman. How's Nick doing?
Nick is fantastic.
Yeah?
Um, I always say that Nicholas laid the foundation for the mother his brother was gonna need.
Oh,
'Cause
interesting.
Nick, he did not need this version of me. He was very independent. He did everything early. Um, and he is an amazing big brother. And so that does like I always think about people know me as Roman's mom. Because he's the one like I'm always having to advocate for and be loud and outspoken about. But Nicholas, he I could not have asked for a better kid,
Mm,
who's a man now. He's getting his master's degree in May of next year.
wow.
Um, he's brilliant, super smart. He has like a bachelor in biology with a minor in chemistry, and is the most loving. Just show up in the world, and I need my little brother to be okay, and I don't want to go away to school because I don't want to leave you two. And so he very much understood at a very young age what his brother needed. And somehow internalized that and was like, yeah, I got to help out. I got to do this. Even though I'm the oldest, so I was like, I do not want you taking care of your brother. You cannot do these things. I want you to have your own life. Um, but he is such a light. And watching him and his brother interact, they have this form of communication that just works for them. And he's amazing. He is
Yeah.
so amazing. And thank you for asking about him because he does. A lot of people forget that he is there. And I'm like, he started the whole like I am able to be this mom because he was the kid and grew into the man that he is.
That's awesome. So, you had him for about 4 or 5 years before Roman came. So you had kinda like mom training, 4 or 5 years of mom
Yes.
training. That's awesome. How
That
much
dad, this is pretty cool. This is
Y
easy.
yeah. That's what Savannah was for us. Savannah was like the easiest baby, and we were like, "We got this. We're gonna have like 10
Oh,
kids." And then Jackie Boy came around. Oh man. And then, Emerson, they're all so different. But how so it sounds like some of these virtues he just had, Nicholas had, but then some of them you nurtured and then he recognized and then developed himself. Is that fair to say? Like kind of a combination of all of that or
I I I think it's a combination. But I also think it's just something he had.
yeah.
I always laugh and I say even with Roman's got this magic and this juice about him
Yeah.
that people remember him. Teachers from elementary and preschool will stop me and be like, "Hey, aren't you Roman's mom?"
Hmm.
So he is very unforgettable. His presence is just strong and bright, and it's interesting because he's non-vocal and he doesn't communicate with words. Um, I think his presence is even stronger and it's brighter and it leaves that impact on the people that he meets.
Yeah. Um, what was your experience like early on? Like, how did you come to that conclusion that Roman had different needs?
So, ironically enough, when I was pregnant with Nicholas, I worked for St. Ambrose Outreach Center.
Mm,
And so I was a program leader, and all of the students in my group were either neurodivergent or had some level of learning disability. So I had worked with autistic students for a very, very long time.
mhm.
And so I saw the signs early. These are all the things the parents were asking me about. And I would tell them, okay, well, you need to have them evaluated. You need to do this. Are they missing these milestones? And so I had kind of like that foundation in the beginning to recognize it. And I was like, okay, we're not going to pretend we don't see this. There definitely were delays as far as him, because he had actually started speaking and then stopped. So there were definitely social delays, things that we saw, and it was like, okay, we already have an idea what this is, so let's start researching and early intervention and get some help going.
What about for you internally? Do you go through a process of kind of wrestling with it or fighting against it or not or I don't know because I know as soon as we found out we were pregnant I was already walking down the aisle with the I had like visions of how this kid's life was going to go, and then they
Uh-huh.
come out and they got a mind of their own and they got a life of their own and all kinds of different things happen that you don't expect and um especially those hard ones, those hard bumps in the road are like, "Oh, man, I did not think life would be going this way for me, for my kid, for my like, I don't know, did you go is that just me because 'cause I'm like a vain asshole or like
No, I think I went through all of those things, but again, I always find like I go through stuff backwards. So initially, I was gung ho, like this is the challenge. How do I fix it? How do I solve all of the problems? Well, we research and we
Oh,
read and we do all the books and we do all of these things because I think I'm just inside. I'm a natural problem solver, so it's like, how can I fix the thing?
mm,
And so then it was later on where I feel like I experienced like that mourning process that some parents experience initially, where it was, oh, you can't fix this.
mm,
Like, this is not going to go away. not in the way that you thought it was. And so it was once I was there, it was just like, okay, well, this is who he is.
Yeah.
So how do we create spaces where he can show up 100% as he is? Because he's not the only one. And so I think that's how it influences the work that I do now. It's because I'm constantly seeing my son's face in other people in the community. I'm seeing myself in other parents, and it's how do we make space for all of us to just coexist and show up as we are.
That is so interesting, that phrase that you just used, creating space. Now, because it's something I think I was picking up on in listening to you in other conversations, that a lot of parents or just people that are going through stuff and trying to figure out how to deal with stuff that they didn't expect, they internalize and bring it in. But it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm reading too much into this, but it sounds to me like your way of solving problems was imagining, in this case, Roman in the world. And a lot of these things that you do are engaging your neighbors, engaging the police department, like engaging the
Mhm.
school, like engaging a community, the city of Baltimore, in solving this problem as a community, not just your problem, but as a community. Is that am I onto something there?
100%.
Yeah,
I think because the way that I looked at it was Roman is safe at home. Like we all know his quirks, we know all of the things, we know the trigger words. But what happens when he steps outside?
yeah,
If we don't share him with the rest of the community, with the rest of the world, nobody else is gonna know. And that's with anything. It's if people aren't a part of the process, how do you exist? How do you show up in these spaces? How do you truly thrive? And I think that was kind of always my focus. Even being at the fire department, Roman is not the only person in Baltimore City that has a communication delay. He's not the only person that could be affected by blasting lights and all of these sensory things. So if I can create a safe space for him, inadvertently, I'm creating a safe space for my neighbors. I'm creating a safe space for somebody across town who I've never met who has some similarities with us. And so again, I think it's always how do we just create space. And I know like inclusion and inclusivity is like all these buzzwords now, but it's like when you truly create space for one person, you're creating space for everybody.
yeah, yeah. Um, so tell me a little bit, if you would, about like the work that you do with the schools and the hospitals and the social agencies. What does all that look like? What does all that involve?
So again, strategically strategically aligning my life, how it goes is when I used to be a first responder, I worked for the fire department and Baltimore City Police Department for 14 years between the two. And so anytime we got calls where they found an autistic individual or someone that was nonverbal, it was kind of like I was the resident expert. So it was like, hey, call dispatch and ask Nikki how to communicate or how we should handle this issue. When I left, I
So,
actually
just
started.
a quick question. So vocationally, you were you the person that was on the end of the phone when somebody called 911? Was that your job?
Both. So
Oh,
I took
okay.
911 calls, and then
Yeah.
I was also the person on the other end of the radio talking to the responding
Oh,
unit.
okay.
So I was dispatch as well.
Mm.
So I did both.
Is that normal for
Yeah.
people to do both of those?
Yes.
Okay.
Most agencies, you do both, maybe not the same time in the night, but yeah, you'll take 911 calls from the community and then also like on the scene of a fire or something like that, you'll have the officers in your ear and you'll be coordinating logistics and having more units respond out. So yeah,
Right.
all of that.
Right.
Yeah, so I did that there. And then the amazing organization, Pathfinders for Autism, I started out as a parent calling, getting resources, and they were like, "Hey, would you like to come do what you do in the community? You want to apply for a job?" And I did. So now I go out to schools, I talk to parents, Autism 101 training. It's not a clinical training, but it's tips and strategies communication strategies, how to interact with individuals in the community, whether it's a student, a child. Our organization does training with law enforcement. We do training for nursing students all throughout the community just to create space and help them find resources that they need for the lifespan.
I would imagine that, like all the different stakeholders, whether it's the kid, the parents, the people on the other end of the 911 call, like everybody could use a little bit of training or education. Like even a parent, like there might be a way to talk to somebody when you're calling 911, depending on what the situation is. Like if the kid is having a seizure or if the kid is
Mhm.
having an episode of some other, like there's a way. Is that right? Like you have to, like it's helpful to know how to talk to 911
Yeah.
and give them the update, right?
It very much is. And I used to laugh all the time because I would, being someone who worked for 911, I would not call 911 because I always felt like the room for error was too great for me.
Mm,
And this is from a person who didn't really have to call 911. I could call communications and say, "Hey, I just need somebody to assist." The average person in the community doesn't have the ability to do that.
right.
The dispatchers were familiar with my family and my son, so they knew what that looked like. And so we are able to, 911 has made a lot of changes to better help. But again, we're in a space where there are some family members and some community members that are shy about sharing their child or loved one's diagnosis. They might not want everybody to know. They might not know themselves.
Right.
So just making, like you said, making people aware and sharing information is so helpful. Because again, the officers responding, the units responding, they don't know what they don't know. And if you're not familiar, my son in the community dealing with sensory processing disorder could be mistaken for something else if you're not familiar. So again, making your community aware creates a better and a safer environment, I think.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's funny is I was thinking about your time working as an emergency call taker, which you, by the way, you're doing for Pathfinders for autism, and I do want to talk about that. But one of the things I was curious about is you must have some amazing stories, and it got me thinking like you could write one of the best screenplays or TV shows or something, but you're actually writing that right now. Raising Roman. Do you ever picture that as a movie? And if so, who's playing you?
No, because most days I can't even see past the book.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
because a lot of the things that I've done, I've never saw myself doing them. And like even when I was in college, I was going after a political science major and ended up working at the fire department. So, um, yeah, my life, nothing. I don't think anything when it's planned kind
I'm
of
not gonna let
happened.
you off
And
the hook though. Who's playing you in the movie when we make it?
who's playing me? I would say Kiki Palmer
Oh, Kiki Palmer. Okay, I gotta look this up. Kiki Palmer. Is that K
because
Kiki?
Because she is
Oh,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah. I see that. Uh-huh.
she's so like exciting and just she's all over the place.
Yeah.
I feel like in my head, that's who I am in real
Right, right. That is
life.
awesome. All right, I'm
Yeah,
following
I'm gonna
now.
say Kiki Palmer is gonna play me.
Not that she has 14.6 million followers, but she has one more now.
Right.
That's awesome. Okay, so Pathfinders for all. Oh,
Corey, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Can we pause for one
Sure
second?
thing. Yeah, no problem.
My dog just got off.
That's all right. We're good. Give me just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, good. We're good. I just need that flat line so that I see on my timeline, so I see where I need to cut it. All right. So yeah. So Kiki. All right, Kiki Palmer. So Pathfinders for Autism. Tell me about that organization. You've been working for them for about 3 or 4 years.
Yes, February will be 4 years I've
Okay.
been there. Yes. So this actually was our 25th anniversary.
Oh wow.
It was started by parents who were struggling to find resources for their loved ones. Um, when you first get the diagnosis, it's super scary because it's just a space of unknown. A
Yeah.
lot of times I talk to parents now who will call and they're like, my child was just diagnosed and they gave me a piece of paper with phone numbers to call and your number was on it.
Mm.
So being in a position to be the thing that I needed in the moment
Yeah.
makes work the best feeling in the world. And so again, we do like family fun events for free where entire families can register and bring their family out to the aquarium or the science center, or we might have tickets for a baseball game. So to give them a space where they can be in community, they can meet other parents, other families, which is amazing for perspective to see that you're not the only person going through the thing. And again, we do all of that training. We have resources on our website. Just learning the process as I'm still going through it because my son is 20 and I have coworkers who have older children that have gone further along. So really being able to still learn, pour into other people that are just learning and show up.
Yeah. Yeah. You have such a unique intersection of experience that you're the perfect person for that job. All those years on the other end of the 911 calls and all that experience professionally, but then, your experience as a mom and then engaging the community in your experience and creating space for young people like Roman. And now you're at that intersection with Pathfinders for Autism. I would imagine that gives you a particularly open heart for the folks that are calling in. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the saying when you find work that you love, it's not work.
Mm.
It is really, really true. And it's why I always say that I feel like my life is God engineered because again, I didn't plan any of this.
Yeah.
And the way it all just magically is so cohesive and it makes sense.
That
I could never take credit for any of that at all.
It's interesting you put it that way, God engineered, because it sounds to me like you're having an ongoing conversation with God. I was curious, did you grow up in the church, or what's your faith journey been like?
So, family originally Baptist,
Okay.
um, but I always felt I was little a little rebellious for the version of church my family attended. Um, because in the way that I view life and God, I feel like God is omnipresent. It's always around us. God can be in anything. Um, and I never felt like I needed like a mediator. I don't need you to talk to God for me. I can talk to God. Like, why would I need you to talk to God for me?
Right.
And so that's always kind of been, again, I think that whimsy version of life that I exist in. Um, but I also look at the things that have taken place and the miracles and the blessings that I've seen with my son and the things that have happened that I'm like, I didn't know how to do that. There was no way that this person was here at this exact time and this thing happened so that this thing could happen.
Right.
And so I firmly believe that somebody somebody knew it wasn't me. And I firmly believe that when you sit still long enough and you give God permission to move on your behalf,
Yeah.
those things will happen. And I always call it like dot connecting. Like in the moment, you don't understand what all of these separate things are for. But once the dots start connecting, you're like, oh, like it had to be a plan. Like God had to plan this out because it fits too succinctly. Like it's too perfect of a fit. Like I have an autistic son, and then I make artwork that's tactile and sensory driven, and I'm at the fire department, and then I leave, and now I work for this organization that was helping me, and I get to do all of these things, and all of these dots in my life are connecting so that it makes sense.
So, have there been moments when all those dots making sense that exhibits a certain faith, whether you want to call it like a kind of traditional Baptist faith? Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a more transcendent sense of faith. Um, Have there been moments when that faith has been shaken?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a tattoo on my arm that says faith over fear.
Okay.
And so that's kind of like my mantra is always faith and fear can't exist in the same space.
Yeah.
Uh, But you're a human being and it's okay to be afraid,
Right.
but you have to trust that the thing is going to work out. And I think that moment for me, December 2020, um, my son ran through a wall.
Mm.
So we had built him a sensory room because at the time it was COVID. Romans always had access to special needs schools, therapy, sensory spaces, and now we were stuck at home. And he was going through puberty. He had developed epilepsy. So his sensory seeking, he was seeking sensory input by running into objects. And obviously, if you keep running into the same spot on the wall, eventually it's going to break. And so our walls were padded, and he just kept running into the wall.
Mm.
And eventually, he came through on the other side. This is the first time I ever called 911. And I was like, I need to transport my son to a hospital. And so we needed to get a psychiatric evaluation. And the only way to do that was for him to be admitted through an ER.
Mm.
Now, those evaluations can take months to get at times. But of course, if you check out of the hospital, you're now removed from the wait list. So you have to kind of plant your feet and just ride it out. And so the nurses came down and they were just like, I was like, I know the procedure. We have to stay here. And they said yes. And so it was December 23rd. Roman's birthday is Christmas Eve.
Okay.
And so we were stuck in the hospital, COVID. His dad contracted COVID, so he couldn't come to the hospital. And so I was there with him by myself, and my mom came to the hospital. And so I think it was like 3 hours later, the nurses came down, and she was just like, I don't know what kind of magic that kid has, but they have a space available at Shepherd Pratt if you want to admit him. And I said, okay. And so on Christmas Eve, I had to admit him for a psychiatric evaluation during COVID. Um, and so I know that was the moment because I realized I couldn't care for him at home by myself anymore. But I also had to leave him in the hospital by himself, which I had never done. At this
Mm.
time, he was 14. And it was, this is like the turning point.
Yeah.
And so I went to check him in the hospital and I looked at him and I said, do you trust me? He shook his head, yes. I said, okay, mommy has to leave you here, but I promise I'll be back. And he was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
And so I left him there and I went home that night and I was like, listen, yeah, I got it. I don't know. At this point, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm.
But, and my prayer always was, God, if you get us through this, I will do everything in my power to be present and impactful for every other family that I can. And that has happened. And
Yeah.
so every day I am doing my best to keep that promise.
Wow. Yeah, and you sure are. I mean, it's showing up in the talk about showing up. You're showing up in the community in very real, concrete ways every day. Before I move on to a different subject, I am curious about your spiritual life overall because you have what I would describe, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but like a diversified portfolio of tools. So you talk about meditation, but you also talk about Reiki. I've heard the word. I have no idea what that is. What is Reiki?
So Reiki is an ancient form of energy healing. And so it's been used all over the world. I will also challenge people to say they talk about Reiki in the Bible. I think it's just a different name.
Okay.
But I practice Reiki with meditation to help because I feel a lot. When you walk into a space, you can feel the energy.
Mm.
It whether it's anxious energy or negative energy, like it's a real thing and you feel it. And that was one of the ways that I helped balance myself. And I also used it to help balance Roman. Roman has the ability to meditate by himself now.
Oh, wow.
Even if it's, you know, when he's getting upset, his teachers will remind him, don't forget you can breathe, and he will sit and self-regulate and calm himself down. Um, I know that, and again, I think that's why I probably struggle in spaces with organized religion,
Yeah.
is because I believe that God is everywhere. And I can only speak from my experiences and the tools that I have that work. Um, yeah, I yeah, and I pray all the time. I feel like I'm in conversation with God. There is nothing in my world or tool that I'm using for negativity or um, anything harmful. And so, you know, I understand that some people's belief systems are what they are. Um, but I also believe that God is present in all of the spaces, um, and that's kind of what I personally lean into.
Now I'm just thinking out loud right now. So bear with me as I kind of tease this out. But when I've had a similar conversation with others, they've talked about their individual conversation with God or experience with God, almost as a way to isolate themselves. But you're someone different because uh, so the feedback I would give is there's a quote loosely translated as um, you cannot forsake the gathering together of the brethren, right? You like it's talking about community, um,
Mhm,
or in the New Testament, the concept of uh, what is that concept? The body of Christ, right? Like everybody has a
mhm.
different body part or different gifts and stuff like that. Um, but you are actively daily hour by hour, moment by moment, engage like creating community, like and doing community. So you're just that's why I say it's like a diversified portfolio. And I respect, like I have a lot of respect for the how you're doing it. I think if God's kind of looking at it, he's like, yeah, that's not the prescription that so and so wrote, like John Calvin wrote, but that is the prescription that I wrote. You know what I mean? Like I think
Yeah.
that's what he's looking at her, or she's looking at her, they're looking at her, whatever. So you've kind of answered this, but others that I've talked to that are caregivers in a big way, sometimes they just run out of gas. Um, so is there anybody who can care for you, or how do you care for yourself? We're talking about some of it like Reiki and talking with
Mhm.
God and art, but what are some of those? I'm guessing that that's all part of it, but maybe tease that out for me a little bit.
Believe it or not, creating is very healing for me.
Mm.
And even in the stressful capacity of having a job as a first responder, I would crochet the entire time I was there.
Wow.
Like I would 12-hour shifts, I'm making something.
Yeah.
Um, so that is very therapeutic and healing for me. And I tell people all the time, like that's not a gimmick. It's real. Like the even if it's just the repetition literally calms you down in the moment. I also think that I'm very blessed with a tribe of people that reinforce self-care. Um, I'm very blessed to be married to a man who absolutely is like, you will not burn yourself out.
Mm.
You will not. I understand that you may have done it, you may have had to do it, but that's not a requirement.
Yeah.
And I think the other part of it for me as well is growing up, I I convinced myself that martyrdom was the way to achieve good things. I can honestly say I there was a time where I would took pride in how much work I could do, how much weight I could carry, how much pressure I could move through. You know, I tell people all the time, I do some of my best work in chaos.
Yeah.
Um, and being a first responder is why now, when people are like, "How are you not stressed?" I'm like, "'Cause nothing's on fire anymore.
Mm,
Nothing's burning down."
yeah,
Even when people call me at work, it may be crisis, but nothing's on fire.
yeah,
And I've learned to weave through life when it was burning down around me. Um, and so now it's like, no, you can step back and take a breath. Like no is a complete sentence. You don't have to defend that no. And more importantly, you cannot be of service to other people if you are not good for yourself.
mhm,
And so I think that just it's been a learning process and it's still a learning process over life. But I'm convinced that the people around me see and know how much I pour into the things that I care about.
yeah.
And it's a reflection of that.
Yeah. That's the ultimate sense of creativity, if I may assert, such a big statement. But it's like when there is chaos, there's like a lot of, emotional, mental, spiritual fuselage just kinda ru all around us, right? But the creative takes that chaos, takes all of that chaos and makes sense out of it, makes order out of it, makes beauty out of it, right? So I think that shows up in a lot of what you do, your artwork, obviously, but also the work that you do. You mentioned the word weave, and we haven't even talked about weave yet. Did you find weave or did we find you?
I found weave, which was interesting because I actually applied for a grant to put together the art exhibit that I did.
Oh, okay.
And then from that point on, I applied for the Speakers Bureau, which in itself was a hoot because I'm like, I have this slight fear of public speaking.
Yeah.
Which once you get me talking about the things that matter, you would never know. And it was like, why am I racking my brain to do this thing that I'm afraid of? And it's
Yeah.
because that's the catalyst of bringing community together
Right.
is being in public spaces and telling your story and showing people that they're not in life alone.
Yeah.
And Weave does that in the most amazing spaces and places because it's taking people that otherwise may never meet, may never see each other, may never have a conversation, and putting them in a room or a space or a forum where they can share stories. And, it's not 100% we agree on everything, but it's making those introductions and bringing people together so that they can have them. And that's where all of that discovery
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm learning a lot about weave and I'm getting a
happens.
daily digest and stuff like that. So there's so much to that program but it's about the people. The people that are involved in it are really like I don't know that it's almost like uh reading a comic book about superheroes every day, but they're like real people. You know what?
Right.
I don't know if you feel the same way, but
Yeah, because it's wild because I'm like, I do what I do in my space, and then I'll meet other people that do what they do in their space, and I'm like, "Wow, how do
yeah,
you do that?" And then like the same thing in your space, and I'm like, "No, but you do it this way." So
yeah,
it's when you get to meet the people that they claim are out there, but you don't really think they're out there, and then they're all in this space together, and you're like, "Wow, so we are out here."
yeah. It's so cool. And from all over the country, like all different walks of
Yeah.
life. And it's so cool. Now you don't have to answer this, but I was curious about the political landscape. Um, I would imagine that this administration has pulled I do know that they've pulled all kinds of funding from all kinds of programs. But they've also, like you live in Baltimore, so this particular administration's pretty brazen in terms of like pulling funding and support from states that they've determined to be Democrat run
Yeah.
they've just it seems like they've taken steps to be adversarial, whether it's like deploying ICE to certain neighborhoods or National Guard to certain cities. So I was curious, and again, you don't have to, if you don't want to talk about politics, you don't have to, but I was curious if any of that has affected any of the programs that you're involved with, the funding or any other way.
So thankfully, it has not affected. my work or where I work funding wise. Um, Community wise, I do know organizations that have been affected because they're
Mm,
federally funded,
okay.
um, which is terrible because the voices that are not loud are the ones that are often overlooked, and that a lot of times includes marginalized communities, um, people with disabilities that aren't loud and aren't outspoken. And so I think that that's the harmful and hurtful space for me. But I think because the work that I do has always happened from a community space,
Yeah.
um, and the community knows what it needs, and not that it doesn't need funding because it does, um, but because the community are usually the ones that solve the problem,
Yeah.
I think it gives us more space to rally and show up for one another. So my hope, and again, this is magical, whimsical me,
Yeah.
is just that the community will look to each other because we actually are our biggest resource.
Mm, that's
Like the
encouraging.
people who live the thing know the thing because we live it every single day.
Right.
And again, not saying that funding and money is not important because it is. But I think that the people that live the thing every day will always figure the thing out.
Hmm.
And so if we can show up and again create space for one another and be each other's resource, um, I feel like all of it will just kind of map its way out eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. That's encouraging that folks that are proximate to each other
Yeah.
will find creative ways of solving problems together among each other. Yeah, and that's kind of what our program is about. That's certainly what Weave is all about. That's why
Hmm.
I'm so enamored with the organization and its mission and the people that I've been meeting. I have a really heavy, very important, probably the most important question I've asked you so far. Any tequila recommendations? You're a tequila girl, right?
Your research.
Yeah. So I haven't had tequila in a long time, so I'm wondering if I wanted to try like a blanco or so. I don't know any. So I figured I'd ask the expert.
So I'm a reposado girl. I love reposados and I love extra añejos.
Okay.
So I do I do have a little list. Um, there's one that my husband bought me called Asombroso, which is really good. Um, Herrador has a great reposado. Um, Código 1530 is a good one.
Oh man. Okay. I'm writing these down. I might have to
Um,
follow up with you to get some.
and I'm gonna tell you one that probably will completely shock you. It can be a little pricey. However,
Uh-huh.
Martha Stewart
Oh.
said that this was the best sipping tequila, and she was not. She was so right. It's called Casa Dragone. But you have to get the Reposado. There is one that's pricier. The more expensive one is not the best one. So yes, Casa Dragone. If there had to be one, I would tell you to try is that one.
Casa Dragones Reposado. Okay. All right. All right. So now we're going to start to wind it up. This is our TP&R question. Um, what do you think each of us can do to be able to share space with, have better conversations with, perhaps even nurture relationships with people across our differences? So that's people who have different backgrounds and beliefs than we do, who get their news from different sources than we do. How can we do better at talking politics and religion without killing each other? Or is it even possible?
I definitely think it's possible because I do it every day.
Yeah.
Being a caregiver for someone you love can be an amazing equalizer because all of a sudden you're not thinking about all the differences, you're thinking about what you have in common. And I think the biggest factor is understanding why.
Mm,
You don't have to agree, We're not always going to agree, but if you can at least understand why someone feels the way that they feel, I feel like you can process those differences better. If this is all a person has ever seen and ever known, and this is the only box that they have been in,
Yeah.
I completely understand why these are your views. Do I have to agree with them? No, but I understand why. And I think at the end of the day, everyone wants to be understood.
Yeah.
And so if you look into the space of, well, why? And I know, like, we always think about our kids when they're just like, well, why? Well, why? Well, why? Well, why? The why really is important. And I credit that to Roman because, again, having a child who's non-vocal, when you're looking at trying to figure out behaviors versus words, the why matters because the behavior is communication and it's communication for a reason. So once you figure out the why, I
Yeah.
think it's easier to understand people's perspectives and viewpoints and whether it's religion or politics. That why matters because the why is what's influenced all of these beliefs, all of these things that they're holding so tight to. Um, and if we can just see the why, then I think, okay, well, you know what? I understand. I still don't agree,
Right.
but I understand why you feel that way. And I feel like that level of understanding just gives people a space to have grace for each other.
You know, that really resonates with David Brooks. He wrote the book a couple of years ago, How to Know a Person, and that's what he talks about a lot. And he cites others like Monica Guzman. So I know David's involved with Weave, but that's like the tendency when you come up against somebody who roots for a different sports team than you do, or a different political party, or different religious belief, or whatever. Like a lot of times, especially nowadays, the tendency is to kind of combat, get into combat with them or debate with them, right?
Mhm.
But if we can retrain ourselves to lead with that curiosity, like, oh, that's interesting.
Mhm.
I hadn't thought of it that way. How did you come to like develop that position? Like, when did you start? Like, why? Yeah, like to your point.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have because you put a new wrinkle on that, like to get into the why. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to ponder that for a bit. Do you have any
Because
question? Oh, go
even
ahead. Yeah.
when we get, even when, because I sit on a lot of like stakeholder groups and things like that. And so one of the things that I always kind of lead with is I don't care about being right. I just want us to get whatever we're working on right.
Oh,
And when people
right.
can let go of being right, like
Yeah.
I gotta be right. My way is the right way. I don't really care if I'm right. I could be 100% wrong.
Uh-huh.
As long as we get this thing that we're trying to solve or this problem or this issue right, does it really matter who was right or who's wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. There's so many endeavors where if you start with the big picture and, like companies or organizations, when you start with like a bigger mission of the whole organization, I mentioned theater before, like acting and, method acting is based on several different readings of a particular play. And the first reading is what is the overall objective of the playwright? Like, what is the
Mm,
playwright trying to communicate? And then each actor within that needs to craft a super objective for their character, but how they particularly weave into the larger fabric of
right.
the play, right? And it doesn't make sense. You could create an objective for an individual character, but if it doesn't align with what the overall play is about, you might as well do a one man, a one man show.
Right.
So that makes a lot of sense. Do you have any questions for me?
Um, how do you, because I've watched some of your podcast interviews. Um, how do you not get tired of doing the work that you do?
Oh, I've never thought of that.
And
Because
I think because, like you said, it is such a combative space, and like even the title is just like, how do we do this and create space and community and get that understanding? Um, And maybe the better question is, do you ever get tired of trying to create that space? And
Mm.
if you don't, like, how do you keep yourself from getting tired?
I don't know if tired is the right word. I would say there are times when I feel so defeated. I feel so defeated, and it's usually has to do with my own failures. Um, so but I think those failures turn into the fuel that spur me to figure out, what's on the other side of that mountain,
Mhm.
what's on the other side of that hurdle. Uh, and it's not to say that I embrace those failures when I completely mess it up. Like I am not my best version of myself in some of those times. And I'm not hoping that it happens again. Like, but
Mhm.
when it's happened, especially in recent months, man, there's so much that I've needed to learn about that, even to be able to articulate what the experience was, that drove me forward to learn. Like, for example, a few months ago, I completely just lost my crap. I was like, if you could draw a picture of exactly how not to do it, I was it. Um, it was just, it was awful. It was an awful experience, and for everybody involved. But I've learned so much from that. For example, trying to identify what led to that.
Mhm.
What like what what's the opposite of virtues? Like vices were at play
Mhm.
in me where it led to me completely losing it. And as well as to recognize the signs, because it doesn't happen right away. It like happens
Mhm.
gradually until it happens all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So recognizing the signs leading up to it, and if I can disrupt that trajectory,
Mhm.
in the future. So that's in a way, it's like the fire that keeps burning. So it's interesting that you say like, do you get tired of this, or the way you put it, because I just don't think of that. There's too much fuel. Like
Mhm.
even like doing something like this. We've had a lot of interviews on this program, but man, like this morning, I woke up. So it's just after noon my time. It's about 3 o'clock your time. So I
Mhm.
literally woke up at 5 o'clock this morning, and I was nervous about this interview. But that's good. Like it's like it's good that I'm nervous about it, because I care about it. I care
Yeah.
about you. I've learned enough about you to care
Mhm.
about you, and wanted to do right by you, and just like right now, I'm not thinking of the big thing. I'm thinking about the
Mhm.
Nikki thing. Like,
Right.
but then so I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what comes to mind.
Yeah. It does, because I'm very passionate about the work I do. And so even in that space of always wanting to do it right and always wanted, like you say, communicate it the right way and make sure that they did that, um, it takes a lot out of you, energy wise. And I welcome it and it's great, but at the same time it's like, how do you set the boundaries and how do you hold space and how do you give yourself grace for, because some days we don't have it all together, and what does that look like?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just because I'm like, he loves this. Like he loves what he does, but it also it can be draining. Like
Oh
you
man.
said, when you don't communicate it the right way, or you're like, did I just ruin that? Or so maybe I shouldn't have said that. But yeah, I was just wondering about that. So
Yeah. No, it's a good point though, because I do get tired. I've noticed that when there are days when I'm like, okay, I didn't get to work out this morning. Because for me, exercise is a really important tool in my
mhm,
toolbox, like my mental health, my spiritual health. I
mhm,
do have to exercise, but I won't fit it in the mornings like this morning, where I was like, man, no, I'm just nervous about the interview. Got to do my preparation and stuff like that. And I'll say I'll do it, at the end of the day, like in the evening. But I get to the
mhm,
evening and I'm so like drained by the day, and all the stuff,
right,
that I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna watch a ball game. That's all I can manage to do. But certainly by the end of the week, all of that like mental, emotional, spiritual, all that stuff.
mhm,
So So yeah, it is draining, but it's also reinvigorating in its own way. Like conversations like this are reinvigorating in their own way. I want to make sure that people can find you. There's so much that you're involved with: HGE Designs, Weave, Pathfinders for Autism. I'm not even mentioning, I'm not even scratching the surface, but how can folks find you and follow all the great work that you're doing?
I think the easiest way probably is either on my webpage, which is www.hgedesigns.com, or Instagram, because Instagram gets the first look of all the artwork, all of the places I'm popping up if I'm anywhere.
Okay.
That's probably the easiest way to update.
All right. So I'm on it right now. HGE_designs on Instagram. Okay.
Yes.
Underscore designs on Instagram. All right, cool. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes so folks have an easy link to it. We definitely covered a lot, but is there anything important we didn't to talk about yet that you just want to add before we say so long?
No, I think that's it. That was great. Thank you.
Oh, this is fun. It's fun getting to know you, Nikki. I'm really glad to know about your work and to know your story and stuff. And I hope it's not the last time we get to hang out.
I
Awesome.
would love to chat again when something new happens.
Well, you have an open invitation, and if I am ever in your area, I do get to DC quite a bit, so hopefully I'll be able to take a jaunt up. What is that, I-95 or something? Or
I-95,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, go through that really long tunnel to Baltimore. Yeah, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna have to come visit. All right, thank you. Thanks again for doing this, Nikki.
You are so welcome. Thank you.
And as always, we want to thank our sponsors, Pew Research and the Village Square. And if you dig what we're doing here, remember to follow the show, write the review. You can watch these conversations on YouTube, youtube.com/@politicsandreligion. And I'm on all the socials at Corey S. Nathan, at Corey, S as in Sam, Nathan, at Corey S. Nathan, especially on Substack. Check us out over there and get involved in the conversation. Now, go talk some politics and religion with gentleness and respect, not like me a few weeks ago. And have a great week.